Well, I was brought up and educated in Buckinghamshire. I decided that having finished my education, that I would join the Women's Royal Air Force because I thought this was going to be a fantastic opportunity. I joined the supply and accounting branch thinking that this was going to be fantastic, but I found it was a very chauvinist world. And on marriage, I had the choice of resigning, which I did after a couple of months. The main things I think that helped me in my career path were to some extent that basically the supply and accounting branch, obviously accounting, meant that I understood what that was all about. And having moved from company to company in big corporates, it meant that I knew how to read a balance sheet, how to understand finances, and the way other businesses ran. So that was really something that was very valuable to me. The opportunities that awarded and helped me along with my career, I suppose, was generally starting up my own company. It wasn't something that I intended to do. It was something that happened because my previous business partner died now 20 years ago. And I was left with a huge group of staff. And so, being brought up the way I was, I felt I owed something to my staff. And so, the only way I could do that was to start another company, which I did. In that is much that there are lots of opportunities, but the threats, of course, are always there, especially since the recession we have had. Since 2008, when there have been a lot of problems to overcome. And the main thing was to keep the staff working and going and not to let anybody down. I think the main problems that we have to overcome these days is basically the way the finance operates from the banks. Since 2008 and since the financial crash, the banks have pulled in very tightly. And rather than being able to have an overdraft, we now have to have loans, which are expensive and they cost. And generally, it used to be a problem very heavily for women up until that time. And women were treated very badly compared to men. Now, the same financial pressures are on men as they are on women. There are no changes. And those are the main problems, except, of course, that we work for companies and we have to make sure that the companies we work for survive. Inspiration, I normally receive my inspiration from other business people, women as well as men, and what they have achieved and what can be done in life is, I think, of very great value. I was lucky enough to be speaking at an event for new startups in Birmingham, where Sir John Harvey Jones was a speaker. And he was the most inspirational man I ever met. You really, every time he said something, you learned something. And that, I think, is the main thing of, the main aim in life. I don't have a lucky saying, but I will always quote my grandmother, who came from having hundreds of servants to washing up in a cafe in Constantinople. And she always said, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as you may do it well. I think the main advice that I would give to other women starting up a business, A, be very positive. 2, be very sure what you're aiming at. And 3, learn as much as you can about accountancy, about business, everything that is there. And if possible, of course, also find yourself a mentor. I don't mean a consultant, I mean somebody who is in business and can help you along the way. Certainly, you must start with a business plan. It's not something that will be adhered to, but it's something to give you an aim. And then, of course, also understand that there will be good times and bad times. And running a business is nowhere near as easy as being employed. And sometimes one thinks that, it was so much easier being a member of a corporate company where everything was done for you, rather than running your own business where you have to do everything yourself.